Rock and Load, and I've got the pleasure at Hard Rock Hell this afternoon of talking to new wave of British heavy metal legends, Trespass. Thank you for talking to us, guys.
Hey, mate.
Pleasure seeing you all.
Nice one.
Here we are. You played this afternoon, didn't you?
Yep.
Hard Rock Hell. How did it go?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. A mix of people who obviously knew us from old,
Yeah.
judging by the grey beards, and
There's a lot of those around this weekend.
and new people who just were giving us a look. And I think that's one of the great things about a festival like this.
This festival,
You've
where
got
the two stages are close together.
I think it's really great, and I think we held on to people. And
The good thing about
it built
playing
as we played.
The good thing about playing when we played was the people that gave us a look were sober.
Yeah.
So if they liked us, they'll remember
time,
us.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Because it can run, I
Fingers
suppose one
crossed.
band can run very much into another, but I think overall it went really well.
Yeah.
And we played some new songs for the first time, and they seemed to slot in the set quite well. And there were people singing along, which is great.
Excellent.
When you're playing a new song.
Yeah.
They got quite catchy choruses, but no, that was great. I was really pleased to see that.
Going back right to the beginning of the new wave of British heavy metal, obviously at the time it wasn't given the name new wave of British heavy metal until like a couple of years into it, was it? But it was a scene that we haven't seen since, have we? There was a buzz about the whole scene, and we don't seem to have had that in rock since the early 80s.
Well, we were involved in that. We didn't come in at the beginning of it. When people look back at the new wave of heavy metal, that it goes from like 2 years before we started till like 4 or 5 years after we finished, which isn't really right. There's so many bands that have been lumped in with it that weren't.
I don't want to take anything away from any of those, but
no, of course not. But weren't really in it when it was sort of a wave,
Well, really,
you know.
To look at the actual bands that were involved, you've got to look at Metal for Mothers and CDs, haven't you? And the live the compilations that were.
And the Friday Night Rock
around
Show,
those times.
Tommy Vance played a big part in that as well, and the sessions that they used to do. And I think, but it's interesting what you're saying, because like, could there be one now, for instance, if you actually went out there now and cast your net, if the press wanted to say, right, there is now a new wave, would there be a rich seam of young bands to find
Well, that's what we've been talking about in
because
just
we
about
were
all
in
the
that
interviews.
we were in that bracket, and I think the other thing that was kind of happening, because I was we saw UFO last night, and I thought, I wonder how old Phil Mogg actually is, and he's not that old actually.
No.
He's about 10 years older than us, and maybe this thing does go in cycles. So Purple and all those, the first real vanguard of what heavy rock really is, which sort of came out of the 60s, and like bands started to experiment post Hendrix guitar playing, using the Marshall amps, the whole kind of the gear plays a big part in it, funnily enough. Without the Marshall amps and the kind of kit they used to use, and the Hammond organ through Marshall amps that Purple used to use and things like that sound, it's actually the sound of the actual equipment really that defines the music.
Sorry interrupting, talking to some of the new bands as well, they're all going back to that way of recording, the analogue way of recording.
Yeah, I think
all
there's
going back to
something.
that.
I think there's something about. I mean, the sound of that equipment, but not only that. So I think the new British heavy metal, being about 10 years after Machine Head and In Rock and the Zepp albums and stuff like that, maybe that was a cycle that was bound to come around, because when I first got into it, and I was sort of 16, and I first picked up a guitar, suddenly there were all these bands that I didn't realise were there. They sort of came out of the woodwork, but actually they weren't that much older than us. They were relatively young at the time themselves.
Plus they'd all been just touring around the pubs around the hometowns, hadn't they? Around London. Iron Maiden, for example, played years in pubs before the
Well, in
first
Saxon
album.
too, because they were called Son of a Bitch, weren't they? Before
They were.
before they became Saxon, and you can see probably why they changed their name. But Saxon were one of those bands. It shows how the new wave worked, because not only did it allow young bands to come in. Established bands that have been gigging for a long time who happen to be playing that sort of music also maybe got a better shot than they would have done. And of course Purple reformed around that time as well, and with their new albums and things. And I guess it's almost kind of like the industry itself, the press at that time, Sounds and NME and Melody Maker and then subsequently Kerrang, has got a lot of influence.
A lot of clout,
it's
definitely.
up to them. You know, they created the new wave of British heavy metal in a way,
Yeah.
and the bands just happened to exist at the time.
Yeah.
But the bands that existed fit in perfectly, didn't they?
Yeah.
It just all aligned. at
Slot
once.
together
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah, and
There are a lot of young bands out there playing the pubs that play
I know they are.
old-fashioned type music. We know one that comes from Colchester. Won't go into it, but they have listened for the last. They're only like 19, 20. They've been listening for the last 10 years to Sabbath and stuff like that. They now sound like that,
Yeah.
but in their own way. But they've got that really old-fashioned sound, and there's a lot of bands like that out there. But they've got to be given a chance, and it's not the fans that won't give them a chance. The fans are the most appreciative fans that you can find.
You can see that here this
Yeah,
weekend.
exactly.
There's a lot of
If
new
you're a
bands.
good band, they will give you a chance. It's the other people that have got to give them a chance. The people organising things like this have got to get unknown bands on, good unknown bands on, and that's the only way to build it up.
Fast forwarding on to the early 90s, you reformed in
Yeah,
the early
we-
90s, didn't you? Which
Yeah,
members
we
here
actually-
today were just a
Dave
few
and I,
ago?
we basically, what happened was we
Yeah, not me.
both, I mean, what really triggered the end of Trespass in '82 was my father died very young, suddenly,
Yeah.
out of the blue, and although that didn't actually kill the band, it was a bit like when the meteorite hit the earth and killed the dinosaurs. They were already teetering on the edge,
Yeah.
and we were a bit like that. And it just kind of stopped things for a while. We tried other things, but we inevitably tipped back into it in sort of late '84, and reformed as Trespass actually, and started writing again. But I think the industry changed, and America got the upper hand, and so that really affected the music that we were doing. Because it's very hard for young bands to not look at what's selling and go, of course by the time you catch up with what's selling now, it's moved on to something else. But when Guns N' Roses came over, they just blew us all out of the water, because when the Americans get hold of something, nobody does it better than them. If they ever really get hold of soccer, they'll probably,
I know.
if they want to do
it becomes
something,
popular,
they will. They've got such clout financially and in other ways, and I think sort of the Guns N' Roses and to an extent Metallica as well.
But then Metallica Lars was lauded yourselves.
Yeah. Well,
as
we've met
much
them,
as
the
any
guys
other
loads of
band.
times. They've always been really friendly to us. We always get to go backstage and talk to them, and they'll have photographs with us.
It's every time we've talked to James and Lars, it's been they are talking to the superstars.
They idolise you. Yeah.
They recite our lyrics and
fantastic.
stuff.
And then we walk home in the rain with our collars
Yeah.
up, and they go home in a limousine. That's the only difference.
Excellent.
So you see, our plan, our master plan here is to get as much press as possible, be seen in the press, get this album known, get a new.
I hope you're listening to this, Lars.
Get a new album out, get more press, and then James and Lars will sit and they'll go, "Hey guys, you see this? Let's get them. Let's get them on
Sell
tour.
one of my toenail clippings
You know?
on eBay and raise some money for them.
Yeah.
No, we don't even want that. I mean, I think it's.
I said to James the last time I saw him, we were talking about the One of These Days single, and we were talking about their garage band thing they did, and I said, why didn't you do it? And he said, well, it was on the shortlist, and I said, it's no good being on the bloody shortlist, is it?
Can you imagine how?
But you can understand why they didn't do it, because it would be a difficult one for Metallica to do, I think, one of these days.
I don't know. I reckon that.
I think it would be difficult.
The garage days was a bit more punky though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You had like Anti-Nowhere League songs and Misfit songs on the...
Yeah. But that says something else about that era as well.
Yeah.
Because 77, 78, 79, you had punk in there as well. And what happened was a lot of kids picked up a guitar because of punk.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't help getting better and better on the guitar, and then they slipped into metal
That's
as
right.
well. So I think that definitely helped. And also all the independent record labels that started up at the time.
Yeah, it was a lot of time.
So that was another thing I think that fueled the new wave. And I wonder now. I mean, I've got some incredible recording gear at home for writing with. You can produce pretty good standard of music just at home. And I don't know if that's actually, and yet it's not created an avalanche of new bands. It's a weird thing. That I like to think that it's about songwriting to an extent.
Yeah.
Songwriting, and I mean, when I was watching UFO last night, they're songs, they're actual pieces of music. And they just, I don't know, they just invoke. Dave was saying earlier on about that 70s sound, the riffs.
Well, they also played a lot of new songs last night.
And they fitted in, didn't they? They fitted in.
Fit in perfectly.
Yeah,
well.
yeah, I was really impressed with that.
Yeah. Talking about new old music, your new album is re-recording of your old songs,
Yeah.
isn't it? Why did you re-record your old songs as opposed to
What we want.
recording new songs?
Well, this we did first. So we're writing new stuff, and we're going to have a new album out next year. But we did this first because it's the album we never got to make.
Right.
You see, and we've always thought that there's really good songs that were never given a proper chance, mainly because they were always demos, you know, and all our compilation albums that we've released in the past, they're demos. There's 3 singles we did, the rest of it is demos. We never did an album. Different lineups, different vocalists. We thought, right, all these songs deserve to be on an album with a consistent sound, with a consistent vocalist. Mark, who's always been my favourite Trespass vocalist anyway. That's why we did it. It's the album we never did. How we want it to sound.
4 members here now that recorded everything on the album.
No, well, actually, this album is pretty much the original lineup with a different bass player, but my brother Paul played drums on this, and it was a strange coming together actually because I don't know, we just did it. We didn't do loads of pre-work for it or anything, and so this captures it's got a lot of energy to it that I. You know, because you are obviously we're all very critical of our own work.
Absolutely, everybody is.
But no, it's definitely got something. It has got. Danny, who's not here, the bass guitarist, he helped us mix and engineer it, and it has got a more modern sound.
Yeah.
But then, what would be the point in the 21st century of deliberately trying to make it sound like it's still 1979? It isn't.
Exactly.
And any new material we record is going to have that modern sound anyway, so it's a bridge.
Yeah.
It's a bridge between the old times
But it's still
and the new.
still Trespass, like all the old fans that have heard it say, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sound, but with that little bit of modern on it. Like, for example, there's 1 or 2
Drum
extra.
sounds and things
There's a
like
few
that.
extra guitars here and there that we probably wouldn't have put on back in 1980, and that's why we got Paul in the band as the 3rd guitarist. So because it enables us to get that sound across live, you know, so with a little bit of extra guitar here and there.
Well,
you know.
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying because I listened to it for the first time this morning and I thought that sounds exactly like it could have come out in the early 80s, but with a much better production.
Oh, I'm glad you say that, because obviously you do never know when you do
I
these
didn't
things.
realise that they were all your old songs until I researched it. And then, oh right, that's why it sounds like it's from the early 80s.
Yeah.
And it's available on iTunes.
You already said that, didn't you? But say it again, go on.
The
Spotify.
usual
I haven't said it here, have
digital
I?
places. No, not yet.
No.
Maybe you said it over there.
See, Paul
Hey,
told me to make sure I mentioned it. Every interview.
The other thing I wanted to say was albums and songs are interesting because, like, an album like Machine Head, which for any metal fan or rock fan is like,
Yeah.
or even
Of
Made in Japan's a good for, although it's a live album. I got some people may have this, but you can get all the other recordings from the other nights
right.
of Purple playing those same songs, and when they don't play it the same, your brain goes, hey, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
So an album is such a snapshot,
it is.
and especially with Machine Head, because they recorded it in the Grand Hotel in the basement, and it is such a snapshot, and the sound of the whole album is so important, as what Dave was saying. You know, that's one of the reasons we did this album, to get that sound encapsulated rather than different. I mean, even going into a different studio with exactly the same band would give you a different sound on the finished product.
Yeah,
So, you know, we want that consistency.
But the thing is, although these guys aren't on that, Mark and I have been working with these two for quite a long time. We went out to Germany 12 years ago.
Really?
As a band, just us
As
four.
Trespass.
Yeah, as Trespass. We did the Headbangers Open Air out there in
Right.
2003.
Yeah.
The four of us. We're doing it again next year. But now we've got the extra guy Dan, who Paul's known for ages. So it all works. We all know each other, you know. So it gels.
Good. So what's been the highlight of 2015 then for each of you?
Brofest, I think.
Brofest was good.
I weren't there, so
Oh, you
I
weren't
can't.
there, were you?
I-
definitely
getting
Brofest.
together again, I think for me,
Brofest,
is
Getting together,
getting into the
really.
band, getting the band going again.
And also,
definitely.
and we've recorded
New
two
stuff.
songs, Be Brave, which I actually dedicated to the people of France today when we played it,
Absolutely.
which is basically about, you know, facing into whatever the problem is, not necessarily in a military sense, but just bravery and courage. Courage comes in lots of different forms.
Yeah.
And the other one's called Footprints in the Rock, which is a little bit, again, what we've been talking about, you know, without the Purples and the Sabbaths and stuff, things follow on, don't they? Everyone
without
makes
the
their
new wave of
footprint.
British heavy metal.
They make their footprint in the rock, and then it's there like a dinosaur footprint for all time. There it is, you know, and you can't change that. And I think that's how these things they evolve. They move through time. So there were two songs that we recorded with Jason on drums and Paul and Danny playing bass, and I think they've captured the Trespass sound again.
Excellent.
And we wanted to do that with a new lineup, but there's lots of other things that have been in the pipeline as well.
Well,
You know,
that's the next question. What does 2016 hold for Trespass?
we want to do more festivals.
New album.
The thing with the album is what we really need is a label. You can do a lot yourselves these days. I mean, you can print things, you can record things, you can
Have you
write.
considered going down the pledge music?
I don't know too much about that, I must say. It's one of the disadvantages of being a bit longer in the tooth. You don't actually necessarily know too much about what's going on, but we rely on our younger members for that sort of thing.
If you've got the fan base, it's ideal to raise the funds.
Yeah, and
It's a fantastic concept.
because I think, I mean, that album has actually gone out to literally every continent. I mean, there's people buying it: Australia, New Zealand, Canada, North America, South America,
Wow.
Greece, everywhere in Europe you can think of.
Yeah.
So there's definitely the band has a status, has a you know, it's almost like one of those. I think we're a bit UFO. We are a bit like a UFO in that people want us to exist, but they're not quite sure if we do or not. But yeah, we do.
You do. And it's up to people like us to get it out
absolutely,
there.
get it out there.
Trespass
Get it
still
out
around.
there. And I suppose we all would like the backing of a label, even if it's just for distribution and a bit of tour support and general, you know, just so we can get stuff recorded to the highest possible standard we can. So that would be great. I mean, I'd feel more than satisfied with that.
Yeah.
But like Mark said before, the new album will happen
Anyway,
anyway.
we'll make it happen.
Whether we get label support or not, it will happen. So fingers crossed with that then.
Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to that. We've got a long drive home tomorrow, so that's going to be
Oh,
one.
good.
That's going to be on definitely.
Good.
So we had a listen this morning. but definitely have a good listen on the way home.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I hope you really enjoy it on the way home and it doesn't rain.
I enjoyed it this morning.
Nice one, mate.
Thank you guys.
Cheers.